For those of you that don't know, for many, many years I lived on the road. I lived out of a bag and I travelled a lot. And I always had a Zippo in my pocket. I always had a Zippo. And one of the things I used to do to my Zippos whenever I brought a new one was do something which I called the traveller's mod, which was basically the idea of having everything inside the Zippo that you would need to start a fire in emergency or maintain the Zippo should something go wrong. So what I would do, and I'll show you on camera, this Zippo's run out of fuel, so there's not a fire risk. I would always do the same three things. That's the wrong tool, use that one. You all know how to take a Zippo apart, I imagine. Stay still, there we go. Right, so the first thing I would do is I would always replace the material inside, I think it's called rayon or whatever Zippo uses, with just good old-fashioned cotton wool. I would take all that out, I would put fresh cotton wool in, and I would stuff it nice and tight, and that way in an emergency you can take the cotton wool out, you can fluff it up, pop it inside the chimney there and get a fire going if you ever run out of fuel, which I'll demonstrate at the end of this video. But the other two things I used to do is I would always take a spare wick and I would wrap the wick around the tube that the flint goes in. I mean, honestly, one of these wicks will last you a very, very long time, but it can't hurt to have a second wick in there. I mean, it takes up virtually no space. It doesn't affect the fuel, doesn't affect anything like that. So I always kept a spare wick in there. And I always kept 4 spare flints. Now, there's only 2 spare flints in this one, because obviously I've used this for a while now. So the third flint will be inside and one of them's been used up. But there's 2 left, plus a spare wick. And that is pretty much, aside of fuel, obviously, all you will ever need to put in your Zippo. It doesn't affect anything. Most people don't even know it's there, but I know it's there. And if my wick ever gets damaged or I have to trim it down, you know, you pull the wick up and trim it down so you have a fresh wick. But if it ever runs out, there's always a spare wick inside the Zippo itself. So that is what I call the traveller's mod. I do it to all my Zippos, and I think you should do it too. I'll put a little video in now just showing how I start a fire using the cotton wool inside of a Zippo if you ever run out of fuel. So you need to start a fire and your Zippo has run out of fuel. One thing you can do is you just bend the wick out the way, take the Zippo out of its case, lift this little fill piece, take some of that cotton wool out, fluff it up into a ball, stuff it inside the chimney of the lighter, throw some sparks on it, and eventually you will get a fire. It can take a while if you have patience, and it can sometimes bind inside this striker wheel. So have a bit of patience and you can get a fire going. I've got some cotton wool here. Just pop that inside that chimney. Try and get that all fluffed up as best we can. See if we can get a fire going. There we go. Fire! Like I said, it can take a while, but if you have patience, it can be done. There we go. Little way to start a fire when you've run out of fuel.